Hi, I'm Coach Landry, and the topic is 5 ways to cope with failure. So, made a mistake? How do you face the failure? Okay, failure is part of life, right? You can call it whatever you want, a setback, an emotional letdown, a breakup, a loss, but part of the reason why the experience is so incredibly painful is because at some level you feel you failed. You might be reluctant to admit that even to yourself, so you outwardly label it as growing pains or transition or I learned from it. But however, inwardly, you're a mess, right? So I'm going to go through 5 ways to cope with that kind of failure. Number one, let's examine the truth. This burns and it isn't fun, yet healing and recovery generally start when the truth is exposed. Lies keep you in the dark, and however you try to spin it, your situation, the bottom line is that the truth matters, right? So too often people attempt to dilute, the situation with fancy words or cute story, but this only delays the pain, and delaying the pain can cause more conflict. So I'm a person, I like to live in reality. I like to push through the pain. It's better to get your tears rolling sooner rather than later. Don't act like you don't hurt. Don't try to, go outside and I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks being with all my friends and doing activities. It's better, actually, if you need to soak in pain, sit at home for a week and get after it. But process it, get it done, and when you're ready, get back out there, okay? So, for example, if you see your recent financial decision causes like a decrease in your weekly household income, be truthful about this, right? Don't try to cover it up with telling yourself in 4 months it'll be different. By not addressing this is your now. You're pretending that nothing happened. This is how the problem festers. Eventually, the situation grows out of control and then needs a professional intervention, like a life coach. So, if you're here listening to this, take note. Number two, become transparent with yourself. Transparency is necessary when mistakes occur, right? So there's emphasis on forgiving others, including yourself. However, you can't forgive yourself for which you are not transparent with, right? So, and you can't fully forgive yourself as long as you minimize the error. This doesn't mean that you're overly critical of yourself, but it means being honest instead of telling yourself that your business is closing because one manager made poor decisions. Be truthful, and examine your role in the situation. Ask yourself this question: did you look the other way when there was a conflict in your life? Did someone give you all the warning signs you ever needed, but you turned your head? When you're overly harsh on yourself, you avoid things because you're avoiding having to cause yourself some pain. These same questions can be used when a relationship is torn, obviously. And I'm not referring to any type of abusive relationship, rather a relationship where conflict occurred and healing did not take root. Part of making sure that you don't find yourself in this type of situation again is being able to do an accurate assessment of what happened. As long as you hold back and rationalize, justify, or minimize your shortcomings, a barrier to the truth exists. And this barrier is you. Number three, give yourself permission to feel the pain. After a failure occurs, the immediate mode for many is moving onward because very few desire to be present with your pain. This is why when pain exists, people often use a substance to dilute the intensity of the hurt. They go find distractions. Some people use work to avoid the pain. However, learning to be present with the pain is critical in healing. This is not a sign of weakness, so don't think it is. When you immediately cover the pain, you don't know and remember what your emotional baseline is. So where does healing begin to occur if you can't recognize it? Failure hurts, but healing is possible. So sometimes after a romantic relationship ends, the one who feels dumped quickly finds another person to date. Wrong. Don't do that. Anytime you go through a traumatic breakup, take however long that is needed for you to fully heal so that the person has a fair chance. And if you get into a bad relationship, don't be afraid to admit to that you got into it too quick. You latched onto someone who actually wasn't right for you, and you did it because you still wanted the person before. So you were trying really hard to get into something that helps you not go back to it. Wrong. If you still feel that strongly towards the person you were with and they're still open to talking to you, go back to them instead of trying to find a new relationship and see if it can be worked out. Humans are amicable at the end of the day if you all talk with respect, even the ones that have broken hearts. Broken hearts can be mended. And if you had any kind of healthy kind of stuff, even after a month, 6 months to a year not talking, I've had clients that I've worked with that have been separated from the person that they were with for over a year or 6 months, and they were still able to talk, get back in the groove, resolve things with some good coaching and some good mentoring on how to handle stressful situations or words they don't like to hear, and they were able to get back. But one of my clients actually took a 6-month hiatus, met somebody else, thought that person was perfect, but couldn't stop thinking of their ex. And when I would life coach them, they would get upset that I would tell them that they need to go back with the ex and try to work things out. It really bothered them. Guess what? Her and the ex are now married because that was the right thing to do in the first place, was to work it out with him instead of moving on to somebody else. Now, does this apply to all relationships? Obviously not. Some relationships are meant to end. But if you're still thinking about that person every day, that's the person you should be trying to work things out with, not moving on to a new relationship. And if you left a serious relationship and went to a rebound relationship and that didn't work, it's likely because you went in it too soon, you weren't fully healed from the last one, or you still have feelings from the person before that you left to go be with them. Go back, work things out. We're humans. We all want to feel. We all want to love. So, in many articles and books, it'll address emotional pain, but there's an emphasis on finding meaning and purpose in your pain. Finding a greater meaning can't occur if you aren't able to rest in the pain. So take the pain and do something with it. I call it the hot street effect. When you're barefooted and you need to get to the other side of the street, let's say you run out to the middle and you stop, your feet start burning. What does that tell you? You're either going to go back to where you came from or you're going to finish going across the street. Pain gives you direction. Okay. Number 4, commit to being open to the bigger lessons. This is when being willing to be a student of life is so important. When you think you are certain of everything and that life has nothing to teach you, then you will repeat your mistakes. People realize that there are people that are smarter than you. There are people who know things that you don't, and there's life to be taught at all times. Learning a new way to see a situation can be the very key to your success. One thing I said in my segment previous to this was, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, look at it different. If you can't look at it different, walk away. Pick one and run with it. Happiness is a choice. Learning, is a humbling experience in general because you become aware of all that you didn't know. When you see the deficits in your knowledge base, use it as an opportunity to grow and change. Okay? So as a student, your greatest, teachers might be the people you least expect to impact you. However, when you are open to learning from all, you will find that the person next to you might be your guide, that an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend was actually the best person in your life, and your 2 or 3 boyfriends moved on, and you realize one day, I learned so much from that person, and I still love them, and I still think about them. All these other relationships I'm going through are just distractions because my mind is still with them. Then go back. Take the risk. Go back. Be a student. Let them teach you, and see if the opportunity is there to get back with them, and if it is, and let's say you're the one that made the mistake or messed things up, then let them guide you. Because obviously if you messed up and they left you, then let them guide you. Okay. Number 5, be willing to change. A popular quote from, Gandhi, be the change that you wish to see in the world. And I wholeheartedly agree with this quote because sometimes I think that we can't impact true change in our lives and the lives of others until we change ourselves. First of all, you shouldn't even be working on a relationship if you don't have yourself put together. Okay? So change at all levels is possible. Don't think it isn't. No matter what you're going through right now, if you're struggling to the point where you literally can't make a choice, email me. Let's do a phone session. Let's do an email session. Let's do a Skype, whatever it's needed. But even without me, watch my videos, practice by yourself, do some self-healing, whatever it takes. But all change at all levels is possible. And at sometimes the greatest changes come when we illuminate our path from within. And when we view our situations from the lens of illumination, this cultivates change and it puts us on the path of lots of abundance of happiness. Because happiness is a choice, change is a choice. It's all one big cycle. Now remember, if you sit there and you're doing the same things, you're getting the same results, the definition of insanity are people who do things exactly the same but expect different results. Never going to happen.